everybody, I'm Bill Sanders, and this is Watch Outside, the art and science of watch collection. Today we're going to take a look at the Arnold Son Watch Company, and its origins go all the way back to 1764 when John Arnold started the company in London. In 1792, his son went to his apprenticeship with Abraham Louis Breguet, and then he came back and joined his father in 1796, and it became Arnold and Son ever since then. In 1799, the father died right before the 19th century, and so John Roger Arnold and a guy named Edward Dent had a company together, and they went on after that until the younger Arnold either retired or just gave it up, but there wasn't really anything after 1857 to speak of. During that period, they made a number of very impressive chronometers. All right. So this is one of the, to me, I was very impressed with this particular movement, and I looked at this great big balance wheel. And the thing I like about big balance wheel, when I interviewed Kerry Voutilanen, he said a big balance wheel, and he talked about inertia. I wasn't quite sure what that meant, but basically what it is that the larger the balance wheel, or the longer the pendulum, if you have with a pendulum, the less likely it is to shake it. I mean, if any kind of bumper that the watch encounters, the greater the inertia of the balance wheel, the less it's going to throw it off. Anyway, and there up in the corner, there's a watch by the Son, by Arnold and Dent, that they made after their father's death. Now, in 1998, a company called the British Masters, they decided they were going to start up a company, and they were going to have these different watchmakers that British watchmakers from the past, and they were going to have watch companies named after them, and so they came out with Arnold and Son, and it was set up, though, it was in La Chaux-de-Fonds in Switzerland, okay, rather than London. I'm not sure why they did that. I think one of the things, they had an agreement with Joux-Perret. Now, if you remember, Joux-Perret took over from Jacquet SA. This is one of my watches with a Joux-Perret movement 736 that was initially developed by Jean-Pierre Jacquet and in his company, and then he got in trouble and had to go to jail, and it was taken over by the stockholders in the company, and then they renamed it, obviously, for good reasons. And so it became Joux-Perret, but it stayed in La Chaux-de-Fonds, so it didn't move, and it's still there today. Now, in 2010, British Masters sold Arnold and Son totally to Joux-Perret, even though they'd been making a movement for some time. That's in 2010. 2 years later, Citizen bought them both. Okay, so now Arnold and Son and Joux-Perret are now owned by the Japanese watch company Citizen. However, they're both still in La Chaux-de-Fonds. Okay, there's the factory there. This is a Joux-Perret factory, and they have everything that they're for the movement making. You know, it's funny. I'm not sure. They didn't have a lot of information about where the other parts of it were made. Maybe the whole thing is made in Joux-Perret. That's one thing I wasn't able to find out. If any of you are Arnold and Son watch owners, maybe you know, and you could let me know. All right, and taking a look at it, they have something that's very interesting. Is that they claim to have, and they do to much larger extent than I thought, was that they have separate calibers for each model. Now this is a bit of fudging because they have this incredible number of models, and the I think it's sort of like model A, and then there's A1, A2, A3, and so forth. And so they have one movement for that model under those different variations. But in looking at it, they got a lot of unique models of their movements. I was looking up the at watchbase.com, and one of the things you can always find there is that they'll say, well, it's based on this or it's based on that. Boy, I tell you, they got a lot of really unique movements. They have tourbillons, they have jumping seconds, dual barrel, moon phases, you name it. They got all kinds of really quite interesting and different movements, not based on the same movement, which to me was the most interesting. The one I'm wearing now, I'm wearing Harboring 2 Felix, which has an A11, which is Harboring 2's only movement, and this year they won an award for a rattrapante based on the same movement, but they had different operations for it. Whereas with Arnold and Son, boy, they just cook up all of these different movements. So I'm very interested to see that. Now, in the history of it, I mentioned the chronometer was very important. They were identified as having the first ever watch that was referred to as a chronometer. Now, I know Louis Monet has a patent for it as for chronometers, so you see the chronograph, well, one of the two. Anyway, so but this is their TB88, which is based on is sort of a heritage to the original one. And boy, I was looking at that movement. That is a beautiful movement. I really like the looks of that. It's gorgeous as a movement, and it's one for some pretentious watchmaker like myself who would love to take it apart. But it's really done nicely. All right, they have two major collections. One's called the Royal Collection, and the other one's called the Instrumental Collection. And then within the Royal Collection, they have all these different models. I brought some out just to give you an idea of what they do. The sort of their real basic one is called the HMS-1, and that's sort of like what I would call a Patek Philippe Calatrava style watch. It's just basically time. That's it. They have not only do they have a moon phase, they've got a double moon phase. The one they referred to as constant force. This was very important in timekeeping because they set up some type of constant force system. I think they did it with barrels. They also have an 8-day one, and all of these have different movements. This is what most impressed me, and we're not talking about the same movement with a different module on it, but we're talking about different movements. Really interesting stuff. Okay, now they also have on more of the artistic side, they have some fantastic art that they have on their watches. This is still part of the what they call the Royal Collection. They have hand-painted ones. All of those four along the top of the flowers are all hand-painted on mother of pearl. They have other different kinds of things they put on. The falcon is on mother of pearl, and then they have the year of this particular one. They have is the year of the dragon. So there's a lot of watches, and for very, very international, not just Western Europe. They're for all over the world. Okay, now in there are other major collection called the instrument collection, and the instrument collection was set up to reflect the later part of John Arnold's interest, that he became very focused on optimizing the instrumental aspects of it. Was given credit, or at least given credit by Arnold and Sons, for having the first chronometer, but he may have also done a number of other things that perfected the chronometer after he developed it. Okay, well, here are some different ones they have part of this instrument collection, and this is just a sample. They have one called the Globetrotter. I think that's a pretty new one. It was like 2017, 2018. It's relatively new, which is a world timer. They have one called a True Beat, and the True Beat is a jumping second, and this particular one is also an automatic. HMS Victory, I believe, is also part of that same series, but as you can see, they're fairly different. The time pyramid, this is a very interesting movement and a very interesting watch. The reason I'm laughing, I like those almost despite myself, because they can be very difficult to tell time with, but they do a lot of interesting things in the meantime. Okay, to me there's a lot of mysteries still with Arnold and Son, but it's certainly a watch company I think that all of us could learn from. If you have a Arnold and Son, I'd love to hear what your opinions are and your experiences are with them. But looking at them and their relationship with Joux-Perret makes them even more interesting because of all of the things that company went through and what they've become. I got a feeling they got some serious money was dumped into them by Citizen, and so they're able to develop all of those different movements. I think it was about $1.5 million to develop a single movement, and they've got tons of them. So that's what I'm figuring, that Citizen said, "Look, you guys, here's the dough. Go do it," and they did. So, okay, as always, love to hear your opinions. This is also an invitation to subscribe if you'd like. And until Sunday, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection.